Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Emery Pitcel. I am the owner and chiropractor of Rothrock Chiropractic and Rehabilitation. We are located here in State College, Pennsylvania. And for those who have been following the channel fairly regularly, you know that we have a series of different podcasts. We have a massage therapy podcast, one that we do with a functional medicine provider in town here as well too. And then we have our condition of the month. And then this one is our top 5 most common podcasts. Listen, I don't expect this episode that I'm doing right now to get a ton of views, and that's okay. One of my core and most important guiding principles in my life, personal and professional, in all endeavors that I take on, is the concept of gratitude. I believe it is always important to show respect and to show appreciation for everybody that does even small things to potentially help you out. And by recognizing people, recognition, by verbally telling them small acts of kindness to kind of show that the difference you made in my life, for my business, for my family, for myself, didn't go unnoticed. And so therefore I want to pay this back forward. That gratitude concept is the reason why I want to slow down for a second and record this podcast for this month. It's April of 2025. Some of you guys can maybe see over my shoulder here. This is my National University of Health Sciences chiropractic degree. I earned that in April of 2017. So it has officially been 8 years since I've was a chiropractic student, and I graduated, and I've been in practice for 8 years now. And what I want to do is I want to recognize some of the doctors along my entire life's journey that were most instrumental and most influential and my biggest inspirations, that basically make me who I am today. They make me the provider, the practitioner with the values and beliefs and convictions that I have today. So again, I don't expect this podcast to get a lot of reviews. I'm doing this to pay back gratitude for those who made a big difference in my life. And hopefully it's something that I could look back on a few years from now and always remind myself who were the most important people for guiding me along my journey. So since it is a top 5 themed podcast, I did break it down into 5 sections. And the first I got to start with is I got to start with 23 and years old and younger version of me that lived in Richmond, Michigan. So the chiropractors that were the most influential for me and kind of put my brain onto the possibility that I might end up going to be a chiropractor when I lived in Richmond, Michigan. First of all was Dr. Joseph Manella. Dr. Joe, as far as I recall, was the first chiropractor to ever adjust me back when he was in private practice in Richmond. I know he went on to start the Nerve and Disc Institute, which is a comprehensive medical practice that is in Southeast Michigan. I'm also very inspired from that younger age by Dr. Gary Sclabassi. He has a practice in Commerce Township in Michigan, and was really good family friends with my mom and dad. So he was always, inspiring to me and told me about the potential of this career path. And then, of course, Dr. Patrick Dixon, believe he still practices in Richmond, Michigan there. And he, for the longest time, was my chiropractor, and helped me get out of pinches and jams when I was in high school athletics, and a couple of times helped me out with some running injuries while I was in college. So those three, by far, my most influential, most inspirational from my early years back when I lived in Richmond. I also have to throw this in here. This is not a chiropractor, but when I was a sophomore in high school in 2006, it was the 8th wrestling match of the year, and I went to go post on the mat, and my opponent plus my weight combined, and I actually snapped my right forearm. So some people don't know this, but I actually have 2 plates and 13 screws in this right forearm, and I cannot thank enough the hospital, Beaumont Hospital in Troy and Royal Oak, for being able to perform a really successful surgery. I wish like crazy I remembered the name of the orthopedic surgeon, because I wanted to cite his name so badly in this video, but it's just a long time ago. It was 19 years ago, and I don't fully remember. But the entire staff at Beaumont, in Royal Oak, just incredible job, great surgical outcomes. And I have to say, that was the moment in my life that actually pushed me to want to go and do something in healthcare and to be a provider. I was kind of dabbling and thinking about some other things. Being a doctor of some sort was always in my mind somewhere, but the broken forearm and just the great experience I got with recovering and being treated the way that I deserve to be treated, and the difference that it made in my life and the ability to go back and wrestle for 2 more years after a successful surgery, that was the inspiration to pursue healthcare for me. Let's move into the next. I ended up going to Grand Valley State University for my undergrad, 4.5 years there. And then I went to National University of Health Sciences, which is in Lombard, Illinois, and NUHS for short. So this is the second point that I want to get to. So NUHS, so many doctors through the schooling part, through the first 7 or 8 trimesters that were really inspirational. There is absolutely no way I can list everybody, but I at least pulled out a handful of the names that I thought were most important and the most inspiring for me. So I want to go through them. Dr. Hodges, incredibly such a sweet, nice person, very passionate about the chiropractic profession. Dr. Humphreys did so much to push us in functional neurology, and I feel like I know so much neurology as a result of how hard his classes were. And likewise, Dr. Darby, same thing, just the neuroanatomy courses were extremely challenging, but I still hold and retain all that information to this day as a result of that. Dr. Curtin and Dr. Elder and Dr. Pafoco, all just phenomenal technique instructors. Definitely learned so much as a result of their instruction. And Dr. Pafoco especially was critical, Dr. Ed, for kind of teaching that end range loading class, which then ends up being the flexion distraction in the McKenzie method therapy that I use every single day in practice. That was kind of the guiding principle to make me realize how much I appreciated those types of techniques. And then Dr. Bogar was, really tough with the radiology courses, but I appreciate how hard the classes were and the knowledge that we gained from that. And Dr. McCrae with the clinical nutrition and the biochemistry courses. Again, the only reason I could sit down and confidently have a good conversation with Dr. Maggie Sopik is because of how hard Dr. McCrae pushed us in his classes. So that's just a few. I know I forgot a lot, but again, just a shout out to the entire National University of Health Sciences. Phenomenal chiropractic school, extremely evidence guided, evidence based, and really I'm appreciative of having that base, and that's the type of chiropractor that I pushed myself to become. Then we go into the clinicals. So also at Lombard, Illinois, when I was in clinicals, there's 2 doctors that I really want to bring a shout out to at this point that were just absolutely instrumental for me. So for the clinicals in Illinois, my clinician was Dr. Brian Anderson, who is now doing research at Palmer University over in Davenport, Iowa. And Dr. Anderson really fostered like the bedside manner that I approach with, the very factual driven and very straightforward to the point of telling people the information that they need to know. But he also, just being a McKenzie method provider himself, further fostered that desire for me to become that kind of provider for my future patients. And then Dr. Stephen Hefner, diplomate in MDT. He was actually the instructor that taught my Part A, C, and D courses that I attended for the McKenzie method, and just such a wealth of knowledge, knows the McKenzie method system just inside and out, and fantastic with patients. I find a lot of the silly jokes that I make with McKenzie methods are still from Dr. Hefner, so appreciate you both, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Hefner. And then in April of 2017, we went into the great unknown, leaving behind chiropractic schooling and started practicing in Illinois. And then here's where, down in New Lenox, Illinois, my biggest inspiration, and I find I still to this day utilize all the knowledge that I learned from Dr. Mike Veerman. So Dr. Michael Veerman, I can't thank you enough for being a phenomenal boss, for really kind of showing that chiropractic doesn't just have to be manipulation only, that you could spend a lot of time working on the soft tissues and building really comprehensive physical therapy and home rehab plans for patients. And just the practice that he ran and all the confidence that I gained, a lot of those lessons are the reason why I'm able to have a successful private practice here in State College. So can't thank Dr. Veerman enough. Also, absolutely was inspired by my other coworkers. So Dr. Amali Carey Snyder was a phenomenal doctor. Learned a lot of kind of like tricks and like other type of adjustments to kind of help patients, and just really great for talking through clinical cases. And similar to Dr. Shelby Preston Smith, who I also practiced with there for about a year and a half, very bright, learned how to, again, be a bit more empathetic and how to kind of like be better about talking to patients and respecting their concerns and their needs. I learned a lot of that sort of stuff from Dr. Molly and Dr. Shelby. And then now that brings us to in 2020, December of 2020, my wife and I moved to State College. So we've been here for almost 4.5 years. I didn't start my practice right away just because that was the middle of the coronavirus. So a little bit of challenging times to go and start practice right away. But along the entire journey before officially opening up doors on November 19th of 2021, so that being our anniversary, I had a lot of doctors here that were very supportive and just understood that the world isn't necessarily, you have two ways that you could look at business, right? You could either look at it as everything is competition and be cutthroat and try to undercut everybody and think to yourself that I've got to control everybody and everything. And if you ask my opinion, it's a horrible way to do business and it's eventually going to come back and burn you. The better way to do business is to be collaborative, to actually understand that this is a mentality of abundance, not a mentality of scarcity. And if you're always keeping in mind what's best for the patient and what they actually need and where my skill set is and where it ends, then that is a much better way not only to treat patients and take care of them and treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve, but to also just run a better business and to get better patient outcomes. So, three names in this area that I really want to pull out is I can't thank enough Dr. Craig Brummer. From the minute I moved into State College, he instantly became a big friend of mine, really kind of made sure that my wife and I felt welcomed and felt supported. And he continues to kind of help guide me to this very day on how to run a good practice here in town. Dr. Kevin McCarthy and Dr. Kelly up at Hands and Health, amazing people. They have, kind of guided me along with getting more confident with doing things with standard process and whole food supplementation. But again, just a really good friend and a really good soundboard to kind of bounce ideas for the practice off of to make sure we're kind of making the right decisions and being the vision of what we really want to be. And of course, I can't forget to mention Dr. Maggie Sopik. She's on the podcast with me once a month for the micros and the macros and micros. Incredible breadth of knowledge, just brilliant when it comes to functional medicine, and the skill set that she brings to the table is invaluable, right? So can't recommend enough checking out her, and she has continued to be a great collaborative source for us. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the other doctors. And again, there's a lot of doctors up at D-Wall Chiropractic up in Williamsport, but I learned how to also run a better practice by being exposed to how things are done up at D-Wall Chiropractic. And so I want to thank the staff there, and I want to thank all the chiropractors that I practice with up there as well too. You all have inspired me. You have shaped and guided me to be who I am. And I don't take for granted that this is 8 years of successfully practicing. I know not everybody makes it that long. And so I just really think that every step of the way here, I had really good mentors and really good inspirers to make sure that I, continued to grow and turned into the version of a healthcare provider, practitioner, and chiropractor that I truly wanted to be. So big thanks to all of those. Massive amounts of gratitude to everybody. I know this is a long podcast, and once again, if it doesn't get received very well, I totally understand. But I just wanted to make sure that the people who have been instrumental for me are getting the credit that they deserve. So, from Rothrock Chiropractic and Rehabilitation, I'm going to put a wrap on this podcast here for April of 2025. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end. If you were inspired by any of the names that I listed in there or any of the institutions that I listed, they're all going to be linked in the descriptions below. So please check out their information, check them out. And if you're looking for help and you need a provider in any of those areas, these are all great people that can help you out, certainly. So from Rothrock Chiropractic and Rehabilitation, thank you so much for tuning into this month's top five common podcasts. We appreciate you out there. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if you found this interesting or beneficial. And check out our channel for a lot of the other educational and informative material that we have out there. But once again, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care till next time. Thank you.